CMOs, blanket licenses, intellectual property, metadata. What in the world are we talking about? Stick around for another episode of Understanding Streaming. Hey everybody, my name is JK from Exilic Music, and it's been a pleasure to be having these conversations with you. This is the third in a series of conversations about helping us to grapple with and understand the digital music streaming era that we find ourselves squarely in the middle of. And in our past two episodes, we looked at a brief history of recorded music, and then in our previous episode we jumped into some key definitions. I said to you that I had 8. In the last episode I dealt with 4, and now we're going to deal with 4 more. So let's get into some definitions for the music streaming era. CMOs, let's talk about collecting management organizations. That's what it stands for. And these come in different shapes and sizes, and I'm making specific application to the South African context here. A collection management organization is an organization that has members. They have members and they collect money for their members. The money that they collect is essentially royalties. Okay, royalties is income due to rights holders, and rights holders are people who own intellectual property. We're going to talk about intellectual property in a moment. But essentially, where there is a right, a royalty is due if that music has been rightly used, or if that work has been rightly used. So let's make some concrete examples here, and I'm going to deal with 2. SAMRO in South Africa, South African Music Rights Organization, is an example of a CMO, of a collecting management organization. They collect PR, performance royalties, for their members. And their members are eligible for royalties if their music is being performed, whether it's being performed through the broadcast of a recorded version of their song, or whether it's being performed live at an event by themselves or by someone else. It's a royalty for the composer and the author of the work, and so SAMRO collects royalties for those performances. But there's another CMO that is important for our discussion about understanding streaming, and in South Africa that CMO is Capasso. Capasso is the Composers and Publishers Association, and essentially these guys are the people that we need to be thinking about when we think about streaming. Who are their members? Their members are also composers and authors, and Capasso also collects royalties on behalf of these composers and authors, but they don't collect royalties that are due for PR, performance rights. That's what SAMRO does. Capasso collects MR, mechanical royalties, that are due to people who hold mechanical rights. So let's talk about mechanical rights and mechanical royalties quickly. What is a mechanical right? A mechanical right is the right that comes into existence when a copy of a work is made. Essentially, it's the copy of a recorded version of your work. I keep saying work. What is work? Work is a song that you wrote, or the lyrics that you wrote to a song, or both. Words, music, melodies, lyrics, all of that. It constitutes a work. And when that work is recorded, and when that master recording is copied, a mechanical right comes into existence. Whenever there's a right, a royalty is due. And so royalties get paid to people who own those mechanical rights. In the old days, and you can hear the language, it's a little bit archaic. Mechanical sounds like machines, right? A mechanical copy would be made of a piece of vinyl, right? Then a mechanical copy, not so much mechanical anymore, but a digital or an electronic copy would be made of a CD. The same is true in the digital era. Old school digital, a copy would be made of an MP3 that would be sitting on the DSP's server. As soon as you download it, you're making a copy onto your computer. That means a mechanical right has come into existence, and a royalty is due to the owner of that work, the owner in the composition. And so the same is true for streaming. As soon as you start streaming a file, you are actually making a copy of that file. A copy of that file now exists on your computer, and a royalty is due. So in order to get royalties off of streaming, you need to be a member of Capasso in South Africa, who will collect mechanical royalties on your behalf. Let's talk about, and there are more CMOs, but we're not going to get into that, because the ones that are most important here is really in the South African context. It's Capasso. Let's talk about a few more definitions. Blanket licenses. This ties in nicely with the idea of CMOs. A blanket license is a license that is paid for by a music user, not a music creator, not a songwriter or composer, but someone who uses music. Examples of music users would be radio stations, retail outlets, venues like bars or restaurants, or even events, special events. These music users might be using music that was created by you, right? Or they might be using music that was recorded by you. In order to do that, they need to have a license. When they pay their blanket licenses, they pay those licenses to CMOs. CMOs get their revenue from those blanket licenses. Where does the money come from to pay royalties to the members of these various CMOs? They come from those blanket licenses. That's essentially it. A user pays a blanket license. The blanket license goes in the pot, and all of the funds from the blanket license gets distributed to the members of the CMOs as royalty payments. Let's talk a bit about IP, and then we'll end off by talking about metadata. What is IP? It's an abbreviation for intellectual property, and we've already hinted at this when we spoke about the CMO, the Collection Management Organization. A CMO basically helps to organize and manage intellectual property. But the intellectual property remains the property of the rights holder. I like to make the analogy of physical property. When someone owns physical property, they may choose to use it themselves, or they may choose to rent it out. Either way, they own it, they have the title deed. The same is true for intellectual property. Examples of intellectual property could be like a trademark for a specific design or logo, or a patent for a specific invention or a design, or in our case, copyright. Now, in South African copyright law, you don't have to register your work, your musical composition, before it's copyrighted. In South African law, as soon as you create something, it's yours. The copyright exists. There's nothing that you need to do in order to own the copyright. It exists purely because you've created it. Now, proving that you've created it is another thing, and earning money off your creation is another thing. That's why you need CMOs, and that's why people need to pay blanket licenses and so on. But copyright exists as soon as you create something and you become the rights holder. You own the intellectual property. You can exploit that in a positive sense by allowing other people to use your property, just like someone could rent out their house and earn rental income. So you could let people sing your songs or record your music and earn royalty income. But it's possible because you own the intellectual property. And this is important because once we start thinking about streaming revenue, then all of these things come into play. Last definition, metadata. This one is crucial, especially for the way forward in the digital music era, the streaming era in particular. Let me tell you why it's important first, and then I'll tell you what it is. Metadata is going to become more and more important because it's going to make it possible for more people to access your music without actually searching for your music by name. Okay, so they might not know the title of your song, they might not know the title of the artist, but they would still be able to access your music if your metadata is, and the term that they use often in the industry now is clean. It needs to be specific and it needs to be detailed. So what is metadata? It's all of the information, all of the data that is added to your music file. And you can do this by using your aggregator or your distributor. You can give them the music, or you can add it yourself if you're a DIY distributor. And this includes things like artist name, featured artists, the production staff, all of the names of the people, all of the credits, right? It also includes things like ISRC codes, and it might include the genre and the mood of the song. All of that data that gets loaded along with the song. This is critical because nowadays services like smart speakers, things like Alexa allows you, or Siri on a phone allows you to do a voice search, and you can simply say, find me the song that contains these lyrics. They'll be able to access the song in the platform, but only if all that metadata exists in that file. So they might just quote the lyrics, and then because the lyrics are there, they can pull up the song. Or they might say, I'm feeling sad and gloomy, find me music. And then they'll pull up songs that are tagged sad or emo, emotive, or gloomy. This becomes crucial because the more people can access your music, the more streams you get. And the more streams you get, ultimately, the more opportunity there is for revenue. So this is about making music accessible in the future, and the future has already begun. Okay, that's metadata. It's also going to help you with your marketing angles, and it's going to help your distributor, it's going to help your end user, it's going to help everybody to access your music more easily. So that's it for this episode, definitions of the music streaming era. I hope that you're finding this helpful. If you are, then please like this video. Please subscribe to our channel, Exilic Music, on YouTube. Please share this video with other recording artists or composers and authors and owners of intellectual property. And please get the word out. If you have questions or comments, please engage the conversation. And if you have distribution needs, then please feel free to contact us. Our contact details are on our website. My name is JK, Exilic Music. We'll catch you next time.